Chosen one, there is someone you cannot forgive. You have already tried, you have prayed, you have asked God during entire nights when no one was watching, when only the silence of dawn witnessed your deepest laments. But that person, that wound that still bleeds in places no one can see, continues there, pulsing, hurting, controlling parts of you that you did not even know could be controlled by someone who should not occupy space in your mind. You feel when that bitterness awakens inside you, that knot that tightens in your chest, that burning sensation that descends into your stomach, that bitter taste that returns to your mouth without warning, and you wonder why you still cannot simply let go, why you still cannot let this die, why that wound insists on remaining alive when you desperately want it to disappear from your existence and never haunt your days again. Listen to me with every fiber of your being activated in this moment, because what I am about to share with you will completely change the way you understand what it means to forgive, and more importantly, it will radically change the way you understand yourself, the way you walk through the world, the way you build your relationships from this moment forward. You are not trapped because you are weak. You are not immobilized because you failed to have enough faith. You are not condemned to carry hat weight because God willed it or because you deserved that pain that falls on your shoulders every day, like rain that never stops. You are trapped because you still do not understand who you become in the exact moment you finally release that chain you have held for so long, that you have kissed as if it were a precious treasure, that you have defended with all your strength because in that wound you had built an entire identity, a complete story, a reason to suffer that was much more comfortable than having to face the frightening and unknown freedom that waits on the other side of that liberation you long for, but also fear. Are the truth that no one told you, that truth that churches whisper but never proclaim completely, because it is too dangerous, because it is too liberating, because it removes power from those who make money selling guilt, is that you are not trapped because of who you are forgiving. You are trapped because of who you are refusing to be. And tonight, in this exact moment when you are listening to me, everything changes for you. Not because the circumstances around you will change instantly, but because you will finally understand that the true power to change your life has always been in your hands, waiting only for you to have the courage to use it. I know exactly what the last 72 hours have been for you, because I know that frequency of suffering, that pressure you feel accumulating inside you as if all the atmosphere around you were holding its breath, waiting for something you cannot even fully name, something that hovers over your head like a sword ready to fall at any moment. It is not just silence that you have felt. It is a densified pressure, the kind that makes your shoulders heavy as you walk through everyday life, pretending everything is fine, the kind that wakes you at 3 in the morning without apparent reason, the kind that transforms an ordinary day into a mountain you have to climb with trembling knees and an accelerated heart. Perhaps you have been carrying a question for weeks, perhaps for months or even years, a question that germinated silently in the deepest recesses of your soul, and this week finally, the weight of not resolving it began to feel so unbearable that you felt you would explode if you continued holding everything inside yourself, in that secret place where no one sees, where no one knows that you bleed, where you survive every day pretending to be fine, when in truth you are slowly disintegrating. As you found yourself yesterday sitting in a silence that was not peace, but pure exhaustion, from all that obsessive thinking, that endless processing, that trying to understand what really happened, who you were before that person stepped on your heart with their own hands, who you are now after everything collapsed around you like a house of cards on a windy day, and what kind of person you want to be going forward when you finally have the courage to turn that page that is right there, King calling, waiting for you to have the audacity to turn it and leave the past where it belongs. Or perhaps you woke up in the middle of the night this week, and instead of feeling fear or anxiety as you usually felt on other nights, you felt something much deeper, much older, much more dangerous, a hunger for truth so intense that your spirit knew something was about to be revealed and could not wait patiently until morning arrived. You feel as if you have received loose pieces of a puzzle throughout your entire life, disconnected fragments that never formed the complete picture, as if you were living inside a story whose half was written in a language no one taught you to read, but someone persistently kept hiding the chapter that would make all the other chapters finally make sense. And in that empty space, in that hole where the answer you so desperately seek should be, in that void where the peace you deserve should be, the enemy has whispered a very specific lie, a lie so convincing that you began to believe it as if it were the most absolute truth, as if it were the most accurate description of your personal reality. He has told you that the reason you cannot forgive yet, that the reason this bitterness continues to burn like a fire that does not want to be extinguished, is because you simply are not ready to let go of it, that you are not strong enough, that you still need to suffer a little longer to deserve the peace you long for, as if pain were a currency you could use to negotiate with God for your future liberation. Before we continue this transformative journey that will dismantle every lie you believe about yourself, if this video is being helpful to you in this moment, if it is touching something deep inside your soul that you did not even know was asking for help, something that has been screaming silently for so long, take this moment to subscribe to the channel, leave your generous like, comment. Amen if you are ready to be freed from the chain that binds your feet. Comment if you feel that this is the exact moment of your life where everything changes irreversibly because your comment. So your amen. Your presence here is not chance, it is divine designation. It is the entire universe conspiring to bring the right people to the right message at the exact perfect moment when you need it most. Continue with me because what comes next will remove the blindfold from your eyes and you will never see forgiveness the same way again. The lie you were taught from your earliest childhood, that lie that was woven into your mind by the society you inhabit, by the culture that shapes your thoughts, by the religion you attend, by your own family that you love despite everything, is that bitterness proves your indisputable worth, that holding on to hurt demonstrates unequivocally that you care deeply. Say that suffering silently is an elevated form of devotion. It is a way of showing God and the world that that person, that destructive behavior, that betrayal that cut your dreams, truly mattered to you enough to destroy your life. But let me tell you something that no one has the courage to say when you are bleeding, when you are broken into pieces, when you are at your worst moments and crying alone in the bathroom. That person you cannot forgive yet still lives in your mind as if they were the absolute owner of the house. They control when you wake up in the middle of the night with your heart racing. They dictate your thoughts during the day, when you should be focused on things that really matter to your life and your future. They have the devastating power to destroy your peace of mind without even being in the same room, without even knowing they are doing it constantly, because you put them there deliberately. You invited them to live in the most secret corridors of your heart. And now they walk around there as if they were the absolute owner of every thought, every emotion, every reaction you have when facing the day, while you hold on to that hurt as if it were a treasure, while you feed that bitterness of every day as you feed your body with food, while you re-edit the story of betrayal every time you are alone at night, reliving every painful detail. You are the person in prison, not the other person who committed the crime. The other person has probably already moved on with their life completely, has already forgotten your face, has already slept well last night while you were awake processing everything they did to you, everything you should have said but did not, everything you should have done differently in that fateful moment. You are the prisoner. You are the only one who suffers every day without rest, who loses sleep night after night, who loses concentration in the moments that matter, who loses the precious ability to love other people completely because part of your heart is eternally reserved for that hatred you cultivate so carefully, so methodically, as if it were a sacred garden where you plant seeds of poison every day and harvest bitterness in each season. If you want to connect more deeply with your spirituality and truly understand why you were chosen to live this transformative journey of reconstruction and liberation, the ebook titled Secret Keys of the Chosen Ones can completely transform the way you understand your life, your ancestral pain, and your divine purpose in this world. If you have always felt that you were different from everyone else around you, as if you could see and feel things deeply that other people simply cannot see or feel with the same intensity, as if you lived on a different frequency, this book was written specifically for you at this exact moment in your life, when you need it most to understand who you really are. Through 12 powerful keys that you will learn throughout this transformative and profound material, you will finally understand why your emotional sensitivity, why your sharp intuition that no one understands, Why that calling inside you that never lets you rest is not a structural flaw, is not a punishment from God, is not a problem to be corrected or hidden, but an extraordinary gift and a sacred mission that you were born to fulfill in your life. This special edition is available for a limited time only because we are in a special cosmic period, a period where God is calling the right people to the right message in your personal life. So the link to access this transformative material is in the first comment below, so you can hold on to it before it is too late. Continue reading because what comes next will use the most powerful stories from the Bible to show that forgiveness is not weakness, it is the strongest thing you can do. Let me tell you the story of a person who had every right in the universe not to forgive, who had every conceivable justification to hold on to eternal and consuming hurt, who would have been completely understood if they had chosen to live in corrosive bitterness for the rest of their entire days. Joseph was a boy, a teenager really, someone who had brilliant dreams that sparkled like stars in his chest, who received visions from God about who he would become, who had that kind of burning hope that only young people can have when everything still seems possible and the future lies open like a blank book waiting to be written. His brothers hated him with a hatred that was not superficial or fleeting. It was a deep, corrosive, visceral hatred, a hatred so intense that when they had the opportunity to rid themselves of him, they decided to sell him as a slave, literally put him in a deep pit, and sold him to mercenary men who would take him to a completely strange land, a land where he had no family, where he had no protection, where he was completely vulnerable and defenseless before the hostile world. Now imagine the years that followed in that captivity, the years of dehumanizing slavery, the years of forced labor that burned his muscles, the years of constant humiliation that cut his soul, the years where he could have thought every morning when he woke, "My brothers did this to me and destroyed everything I could have been. My brothers deliberately chose to destroy my life. My brothers carry eternal guilt for my suffering and deserve nothing but my hatred." But Joseph did not remain imprisoned in that emotional pit, with that hatred that would have been completely justified. He began working for Potiphar and worked with incomparable excellence, even in circumstances that dishonored him deeply, that humiliated him, that reduced him to a number and not a human being. And when he was falsely accused of a crime he did not commit, when a woman blatantly lied to him out of personal rejection, and he was sent to prison as a criminal, even in the darkness of that prison, where any person would give up, he continued to have excellence in his work, continued to have purpose in his heart, continued to have value in his soul. His brothers sold him like cattle. His masters imprisoned him unjustly for a blatant lie. Everything he could have done was carry eternal hurt, rye poisonous bitterness, decide that the world was fundamentally unjust and he was a doomed victim, condemned by the circumstances surrounding him. But when he finally had the providential moment to confront those who betrayed him, those who destroyed his youth and his dreams, those who put him in that pit and sold his most precious dreams for a few coins, Joseph wept. That man who had every imaginable power to completely avenge himself, who had authority position, who had the ability to destroy them as they had destroyed him. When he saw again those familiar eyes that had haunted him for years, hidden in the cave of his memory, wept not with burning rage but with deep relief, with genuine liberation that flooded his entire body. He said something that echoed through centuries until today, like a bell ringing, that continues to echo because it is absolute truth, that cannot be denied. You meant to do me harm with all the malice of your hearts, but God transformed everything into good for my life and for the nations I saved during the famine. Notice carefully that he was not denying that evil had actually happened, was not pretending that everything had been fair and that he should be grateful for the pain, was not saying that those brothers were innocent or that they deserved to be considered well the way he was being generous with them. He was simply releasing the right he had to be their judge eternally, the right to keep them in the prison of his hatred for all his remaining days. He had finally understood the truth I am trying to place in your heart now. When you forgive, you are not saying the person was right. You are not validating what they did. You are simply saying that you will not let that person live another day inside your heart, another moment inside your occupied mind, another breath inside your soul that deserves rest. Joseph liberating himself did not mean that those brothers magically became free to live their lives without guilt. It meant that Joseph was finally free to finally live his own life fully. And that difference changes everything in who you are. Let me tell you about an extraordinary prophet, a man who had the divine power to call fire from heaven, who had absolute authority over the elements and over spiritual forces, who had a connection so direct with God that he received clear instruction and divine presence in such a visible and undeniable way that everyone around him could witness that power operating indisputably through him. He was on a mountain called Carmel, a mountain that would become the stage of a divine spectacle, and in that sacred place such a dramatic demonstration of power took place that the prophets of the enemy who challenged him were completely defeated in front of crowds. Fire literally came down from heaven in response to his fervent prayers, and everything he prayed would happen happened with a demonstration of power so indisputable and irrefutable that all the people began to fall to the ground, desperately calling out the name of God, recognizing that there was real power. It was the greatest victory of his life, the greatest testimony he could have ever given to anyone. It was the peak moment where everything converged to show the unbelievers that God was real, was powerful, was stronger than any evil force that could rise up against him. But after that peak of victory that completely exhausted him, after that glorious moment where he touched the face of God in a way that transformed his entire body and his spirit, after that transcendent space where he was so filled, so necessary, so purposeful and called, he collapsed in complete exhaustion. That man who had just stood against an entire pagan regime, who had seen with his own eyes God literally divide the sky with devouring fire, who had demonstrated divine power in such a clear way that everyone witnessed and could not deny, was now under a solitary juniper tree, with no one nearby who could see him, with no one to witness his deep breaking, his emotional collapse, his desperate need to stop and give up on everything. He cried out to God with all the pain of his soul, "It is enough, Lord, take my life, because I am no better than my fathers who are gone. I cannot bear to continue living like this." He, the instrument of such colossal and indisputable power, was begging to die, pleading to simply disappear and never wake up again. And do you know what God's response was in that moment of complete despair? He did not rebuke him for his manifest weakness, did not criticize him for his understandable despair, did not arrive with a new and brilliant prophecy to motivate him again, did not come with a grand vision of his next triumphs and future conquests, did not say, "Come back now, there is more work to do, there are more people to reach who depend on you." No, God came with absolute compassion and with divine strategy that he had planned since before the foundation of the world. God sent an angel, not with motivational words that sound empty, but with food and drink, with tangible nutrition, with concrete physical supplies, because God deeply understood that the prophet did not need more calling to work at that critical moment, needed genuine rest and regeneration, and the angel let him sleep deeply, like he had never slept before, sleep in a restorative way that healed his soul, sleep as if he could finally stop fighting against the universe, stop being vigilant, stop carrying the entire weight of the world on his tired shoulders. And when he woke from that sacred rest, the angel returned again, not just once but a second time, with more food, with more maternal care, and said something that completely changed the prophet's perspective and understanding. "Rise and eat, because the journey is too great for you." This was not an insult or a judgment, was not a statement that he was weak or fundamentally inadequate for the calling. It was a precise divine diagnosis. It was an evaluation with surgical precision of his current condition and the demands of his future journey that he could not even imagine. God was not implicitly saying that Elijah was inherently weak or unworthy of his calling. God was communicating with profound and transcendent wisdom that the next chapter, the next important station of Elijah's life, the next radical phase of his ministry and his divine mission, would require a version of Elijah that could not be accessed, that could not be activated, that could not be released from a place of deep exhaustion, of devastating emotional depletion, and complete spiritual exhaustion. The rest that Elijah received was not a delay in God's operations for his life. It was an integral and inseparable part of divine preparation. It was an essential recalibration that would make him able to hear the small, still voice that God was about to whisper to him. in a language that only those who have rested can understand. The food and drink were not merely superficial emotional comfort, they were vital and essential fuel for a destiny, for an encounter that Elijah in his exhaustion could not even begin to imagine or dream possible. And when Elijah finally came down from the mountain, when he finally went to meet God in that cave, God did not present himself as expected in an earthquake that shook the earth, did not present himself in a consuming fire that burned everything around, did not present himself in an impetuous wind that knocked down entire trees. God presented himself in a small voice, soft, almost a whisper, that required all the silence, all the quietness that Elijah had built during that sacred rest to be heard. This means that if Elijah had remained in his state of deep exhaustion, if he had continued with his soul cluttered with internal noise and the roar of his own desperate struggle, he would have been very loud internally, very tumultuous, very distracted to hear that soft voice, that sublime truth that God was speaking to him, the guiding words that completely redefined his mission and his purpose. Your exhaustion, then, is not a sign of divine abandonment, is not a penalty for your personal struggles, is not an indication that God has finally tired of you and moves on to someone more worthy. On the contrary, it is a necessary precondition for you to finally hear that small voice that has been screaming silently through all these years. God has been patient, lovingly waiting for the incessant noise inside you to finally calm down, waiting for the roar of your own struggle, your planning anxiety, your desperate attempt to fight, to finally quiet and disappear. He is not punishing you with that wait, with that silence, with that pause that seems interminable. On the contrary, he knows that what he is about to tell you, the deep truths you need to understand, the nuanced guidance, the subtle direction of your path, simply cannot be heard over the deafening noise of your own frantic struggle and constant internal chaos. The person you are hating does not deserve your hatred, but you deserve your own peace. You deserve to sleep at night without your thoughts being hijacked by that person. You deserve to be in a meeting without suddenly remembering what they did. You deserve to be with people you love without a part of your energy being invested in bitterness towards someone who probably has already forgotten you. You deserve a life that is not colonized by the person who hurt you. And the only way you can achieve that life is by releasing the right you believe you have to be their judge forever, to punish them, to have vengeance, even if only in your thoughts at night. You have a story that was built on a wound that made you believe you did not deserve better, that you were destined to suffer, that the people you love will inevitably betray you because you are not valuable enough to be protected, that you must be perpetually prepared for the next blow that will come in your direction without warning. That story was woven when you were vulnerable, when you were open, when you had little ability to defend yourself emotionally, and now that story has become the narrative through which you interpret all the love you receive, all the opportunity that arises, all the kindness that someone offers. You unconsciously expect it to be a trap, to be a lie, to eventually reveal itself as betrayal. You are expecting people to leave your life because that was the story you learned when you were young and fragile and had no one to protect you. But that story is not true. That story was written by an injured girl who did not know better, who did not have tools to process the pain she received, who did the best she could with the little she had at that time. You are now a woman. You now have the ability to rewrite that story, to offer yourself the compassion that no one offered that girl, to recognize that you deserved protection then, and you deserve protection now. The wound that brought you here, that made you click on this video, that made you reach this point in this script is no longer the definition of who you are. You are not the betrayal. You are not the abandonment. You are the woman who is here at this moment, looking for a way out, looking for liberation, looking to understand how to let go so you can live. Now, I will tell you something that no one has the courage to tell when you are emotionally bleeding, when you are breaking, when you want to give up completely. Forgiving does not mean that the person who hurt you did not commit a crime. Forgiving does not mean that what happened was fair or acceptable, or something you should simply forget and pretend never happened. Forgiving does not mean that you will give that person another chance to hurt you, that you will return to a toxic relationship, that you will open the doors again to someone who proved to be destructive in your life. Forgiving simply means that you are releasing the control of judge, that you are delivering the responsibility of punishment to someone greater than you, that you are saying, I will not spend my mental energy, my spiritual energy, my precious time permanently on this person who does not deserve to occupy space in my life. When you forgive, you are not saying yes to that person. You are saying yes to yourself. You are choosing your own life. You are choosing your own future. You are choosing the woman you want to be. And that woman is not someone who carries hatred, who holds hurt, who feeds bitterness as if it were the most important thing of your existence. That woman you want to be is free. She sleeps at night. She loves deeply because she is not expecting to be hurt. She trusts because she knows her own worth and knows she deserves to be treated well. She walks through the world with her head held high because she is no longer held hostage by who hurt her. And let me tell you the secret that the wisest people in history understood. Forgiving is an act of absolute power. It is not weakness. It is the strongest thing you can do because forgiving is choosing your own life before anything else. It is choosing yourself when everything inside you is screaming to choose vengeance, to choose hatred, to choose to remain in the emotional prison where that person lives, imprisoned inside your heart. Forgiving is a revolutionary act of reclaiming your power, of reclaiming your life, of saying to God and to the universe, I deserve peace, I deserve joy, I deserve total freedom. If you have not done so yet, if you have not yet accessed that ebook, Secret Keys of the Chosen Ones, that can completely transform the way you understand your purpose, your pain, and your spiritual journey, the link continues to be available in the first comment below. This is the moment for you to connect more deeply with your spirituality, for you to understand that calling inside your heart, that sensitivity that people do not understand, that intuition that no one else seems to have, is not chance. It is mission. It is purpose. And you deserve to understand that completely. Get that material now before it is too late. Now I will ask something that is fundamental for this journey of liberation to become reality in your life in a tangible and permanent way. Place your hand on your heart. Feel the beating of your heart that represents the life that continues to pulse through you despite everything you have lived. And speak these words with me that will completely change the way you walk through the world from this moment forward. Say with me, I release the right to be judge. I release the power that the person who hurt me has over me and my life. I release the hatred that I planted and cultivate as if it were a sacred garden. I forgive not because that person deserves it, not because she genuinely apologized, but because I deserve to be free. I am a free woman. I am a woman who has been liberated. I deserve to sleep at night in complete peace. I open the hand that grips the hurt with nails and teeth. I open the heart that was locked with 7 keys. I receive the truth that forgiving is not anyone's weakness. It is my strength. Forgiving is the most courageous act that a wounded woman can do. The cycle of bitterness that binds me ends today. The cycle of hatred that controls me ends now. Forgiveness begins at this exact moment when you hear these words. I am free, and I walk through the world as a free woman. No one else resides in my heart without my permission. No one else controls my peace. No one else dictates my future. I reclaim my life completely. Stay with me until the end of this message, because what I will say now is the most important thing, the part that makes everything possible, the truth that sustains this entire journey you are beginning. Feel the presence of God's love in this exact moment. It is not theoretical. It is not distant. It is not something you need to earn or deserve. God's love is here with you now, as real as the air you breathe, as present as your own heart beating in your chest. He sees every tear you have cried because of that person. He saw every night you woke haunted. He sees your heart that is good, that is pure, that deserved to be protected but was wounded. And he wants you to know that that wound does not define you. That abandonment does not define you. That betrayal does not define you. You are the beloved daughter of God, chosen since before the foundation of the world, designated to live a life of complete freedom, of deep joy, of peace that transcends understanding. God's love for you is not conditional on your forgiveness, is not based on whether you can let go of the hurt perfectly, is not based on your performance or your ability to never be hurt again. He loves you whole, as you are, wounded and all, and He wants you to love yourself the same way. He wants you to feel His presence now, to recognize that you are not alone on this journey, that there is a force much greater than you, much wiser than you, much more loving than you, walking with you every step, holding your hand in the darkness, whispering that you are strong enough, that you are wise enough, that you deserve complete peace, that you deserve to be free.